Fellas, AC here. Welcome to another review, and this time it is a vintage Chanel number 19, a fragrance that is marketed towards women, but I believe the EDT version, I'm reviewing the EDT version, is pretty unisex, and in fact it can be quite masculine sometimes. So here is the bottle. This is a bottle, it's a prized possession of mine. This is a bottle which is from the mid-70s. This was released in 1970. The parfumer is Henri Robert. I don't know how to say it in French, but I'll show you the bottle. It's a splash bottle. You can see how minimalistic and beautiful the bottle is. And this is how fragrance used to be, the EDT. Outstanding. So, if you ever were to buy a splash bottle and you weren't sure how to use it because you don't want to get it on your hands, I have a method for you, and that is get a 5 ml plastic decant bottle, decant this using a funnel. I've done a video how to decant fragrances, and that's how you can manage the situation. Now, number 19. Now I've got two versions of it. There are many variations of number 19. It is one of the most popular, one of the most critically acclaimed Chanel fragrances, and I do not know why the whole community, the fragrance community, both on Instagram and on YouTube, is so silent on this fragrance at the moment. Here is the other version, the EDT, the EDP. You can see, and it comes with an atomizer. This is from the mid-80s. This is also a vintage, and this comes with an atomizer. And it's a beautiful minimalistic design, but beautiful presentation as well. You can see that. I'll review that later on. This one is more female leaning, if you see what I mean. But it's still quite wearable by men, right? So, number 19. Number 19, when you first spray it, will give you some experience of ingredients that are banned. Wow. It's just an outstanding composition. It's green, and it's so different than what you smell nowadays. Yeah, so it's got two notes that are banned at the moment, but that's why I like vintage fragrances, because I get to learn what some of the notes smelled like. So there are two ingredients here. So what you smell is a very lemony, bright and beautiful foresty smell, green and foresty, almost walking through a thick forest on a sunny day with sun, the rays of the sun, excuse me, filtering through the trees. It's just outstanding. The vision, the vision it creates in my mind is just outstanding. It's a very joyous and happy and bright and cold. So that's why it's a spring. It's known as it's acclaimed by many as one of the greatest spring fragrances. It's like a sunny, bright, cold spring morning, and you're walking through a forest. So the two ingredients that are banned at the moment are Oakmoss, obviously, and HICC, which was a chemical substitute for lily of the valley. And if you're an outdoorsy person, you'll know how lily of the valley smells and covers a forest floor in early spring or mid-spring. And this is what I get from this fragrance. The most amazing natural smell, of these two things. And there's another one that is, again, a difficult note, but executed masterfully here. And again, it's not available in the current version, and that is Iranian Galbanum. It's a green, resinous, lemony floral scent that, if used properly, gives magical, properties to a fragrance. And Iranian Galbanum was used because it was created in 1970. So this is the 50th year of Chanel number 19. And Chanel was born on 19th of August. That's why this has got the number 19. The story has it that it was created as a gift for Chanel in 1970, and she passed away in 1971. And it's a fragrance which actually mimics Chanel's personality. Now this is a power woman, right? And she came from absolute obscurity, right? And she went to the top of the social circle in the 70s. And even before that, she was an outstanding woman. I know there's a theory of her sleeping with the enemy, the Nazis and all that stuff. But can you imagine, this woman was an orphan. She was basically dumped into an orphanage by her father when she was in her early teens. From there, she worked in a monastery, and from there she worked her way up. She did lots of things, to survive. Can you imagine a woman on her own surviving in the early 1900s? She was a charismatic personality, and obviously everybody has their grey side and their good side. She has her grey sides, but this was to celebrate her personality. And this is exactly how the fragrance behaves. The fragrance starts off cold, but extremely attractive, very alluring. And that kind of allure is the allure of being almost seductive. And that, what you associate with unapproachable, very elegant and very stylish women, is this sudden kind of seduction. And that's what this fragrance is. It's very, very aloof, very alluring, and extremely elegant. That's how it starts off. The galbanum and the sort of lily of the valley and fizzy kind of a bergamot introduces a sort of strong iris note, green floral iris. Again, the fragrance is still cold, and that iris is combined with a dry tobacco note. Now, I couldn't figure out because I couldn't see tobacco in the fragrance note breakdown, but they've used orris. Again, very expensive ingredient, and that orris, I know that orris has this dry, fine tobacco nuance. The fragrance brings in a couple of more florals. Hyacinth. Now, hyacinth, I am a gardener. I love growing hyacinth because in autumn, if you put it in your room, the whole room is going to smell outstanding. Hyacinth has this very narcotic, very deep, and very sort of mind-blowing kind of a fragrance, floral fragrance. And that's what they've used here. In spite of hyacinth, this fragrance doesn't smell girly. In the late dry down, that is when the fragrance becomes warm and very cozy. They've used a fine vetiver sandalwood combination. Outstanding, actually. Outstanding sandalwood. The fragrance is dry, It doesn't have that resinous quality that galbanum has, but it's still lemony. And it has very, very pronounced leather. Now, I was very befuddled by the presence of leather in the breakdown because I couldn't smell it. But I realized one day, I normally apply my fragrances here. One day, because of COVID-19 and all that, I use my hand wash a lot. One day I just cleaned my hand and washed it properly. And suddenly I started smelling a very bitter, nutty leather that has been used in Cuir de Russie by Chanel. And I realized, actually the leather is there. It's playing a very supportive role. And it's very, very evident when you wash your hand once you've applied it. Now, the current version of EDT doesn't have the galbanum. Doesn't have the high quality Oakmoss. That Oakmoss galbanum combination in the opening, that's missing in the current formulation, but it's still a very, very good unisex fragrance. So, upsides and downsides. One of the most amazing green fragrances you're going to come across, guys. Don't ignore this fragrance. I think the whole fragrance community is missing out because there is hardly any talk on Chanel No. 19. Chanel No. 19 is an outstanding green fragrance. I can't emphasize this enough. The composition quality, the complexity, the development, it's just a masterpiece. So that's number one. Number two, it's going to be never going to be outdated. It's 50 years, I'm reviewing this after 50 years and I still feel it's very, very contemporary. It's one of those fragrances that I can easily wear to any occasion I please. And in fact, I want to actually bathe in it. It's so wonderful. The difference between the initial stages and the dry down is just spectacular. Number three, it's one of those fragrances that I can highly recommend to a formal occasion. This fragrance has that personality of really well turned out. One of the most finest formal fragrances I can recommend either to a lady or to a man. Unisex, through and through. Downsides. Vintage is very hard to get hold of. But if you do get an 80s or 70s vintage, 70s preferably, do get hold of it. But if you can't get hold of the current version, it's equally magnetic, equally wonderful, doesn't have the complexity, doesn't have the depth of the 1970s version, but it's still a very, very fine fragrance. But yeah, hard to get hold of. The other one could be that this is not for the person who wears the current modern designers. It's basically an acquired taste. These sort of fragrances, to appreciate them, you have to have some sort of experience and some sort of open-mindedness. So obviously, if you don't have that kind of experience, you're going to feel this as a dandy or a obsolete fragrance, or an old woman fragrance, old man fragrance. Those are the sort of reactions you might get. But then just account for it by your, I don't want to sound horrible, your lack of experience. And I want to say this politely, but there is such a thing. You have to have that experience and exposure to be able to appreciate something of the gravity of Chanel No. 19. Occasions. This fragrance is absolutely a daytime fragrance. I've tried it in the evening, now it's nighttime, and I've tried it on a sunny, cold spring day. It smells outstanding. It starts off with that amazing Galbanum, Oakmoss, Iris, and Bergamot combination, which just knocks me out. It's an outstanding fragrance. So daytime is the best time to wear this. Best season, early spring, late spring, early summer. Best time. But it works even in winter. The winter time is when the aldehydic side comes out a bit more. Age groups. A mature scent, 35 plus. It needs a little bit of gravity, a little bit of experience, exposure. So it's a mature scent, 35 plus. Value for money, stunning value for money. Even in its current formulation, the EDT is an outstanding value for money. Go for it. It's very high quality, brilliantly made fragrance. And I really hope you do after watching this review. Marks out of 10. 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece. It's a classic masterpiece. I can't take any marks out, but please remember, this is a 10 out of 10 fragrance for the connoisseur, for the experienced nose. Don't go and blind buy it because you're thinking a 10 out of 10 fragrance would suit me. Test it out and see. And if you're an experienced person, I don't need to tell you about Chanel No. 19. It's an outstanding masterpiece. Hope you enjoy the review, fellas. Take care. Bye-bye.